fact. Let me think. I remember that she was talking on her phone. I clearly remember that she left the restaurant in a hurry soon after that. The man who was with her left in a bad mood afterwards. No, I don't think that he went after Miss Abby. No. He left the restaurant an hour after Miss Abby did. I know that because I served a carafe of wine to the table. The gentleman drank it all himself before he left. I remember being disappointed because they ordered a very fine wine.
Dr. Kimishima, we've received a recording.
More questioning? Who is it this time?
Carolyn Bowen, Sean's wife. Once they confronted her about the lighter, she started talking.
I see. I'll check it out.
So what if my fingerprints were on the lighter? That's got nothing to do with... Huh? Why am I a suspect? No, I'm telling you it wasn't like that. That skank! I didn't report it because I knew I'd get dragged into this mess. Yes, that's right. I happened to be out that day and saw them dining together. They looked like they were having the time of their lives, and I lost it. I was going to charge in there and slap both of them, and then the skank left the restaurant still on her phone. I followed that slut, but just because I was curious. I didn't want her to get away. Of course I was angry. She went into a warehouse not far from there. I couldn't see too well from where I was hiding, but she didn't come out for a while, so I peeked into the warehouse. And there was this hairy beast. It was on top of her. It was doing something to her hand with its terrible claws. I knew she'd been killed, but I had nothing to do with it. I mean, it serves her right. Did she think she could just steal any man she wanted? That's probably when I dropped the lighter. Of course, I didn't report it. I would have been the very first suspect.
I don't believe it. This is one weird testimony.
Our murder investigation suddenly turned into a monster hunt. We've had a sketch artist create a picture from her account, but... Are there any animals that size around here?
Don't be ridiculous. It's someone wearing a mask and some kind of costume.
I thought as much. Could the killer be insane?
Who can say? There's no way to know anything yet. These two pieces of information can fill in Abigail's timeline that night until her death. When was she last seen before she died? That's right. She was seen at a restaurant that she was a frequent customer at. The one with her at the time was... Correct. She was witnessed there with her boss. Afterwards, she left the restaurant alone. The reason she left was... Yes, a phone call caused her to leave the restaurant immediately. But where did this call come from? Indeed, the payphone near the murder scene. It's most likely that the killer called her from the public phone, then waited for the victim to arrive and ambushed her. That would be what happened on Abigail's last night in this world. From the sketch, the murderer was wearing a mask. Now I know what that white shard from the fireplace was. It must have been from the mask that the murderer was wearing while committing the crimes. But why would the murderer throw the mask into the fireplace? Whatever the reason, it helps to sort everything out. Okay, I need to sort out the information I have on hand. My main concern right now is the costume worn by whoever killed the two women. How did it end up in the fireplace in the Parker residence, where Alma was murdered? The most logical reason that can be considered at the moment is... Yes, putting it in the fireplace could be an attempt to destroy it. And if that is the case, something strikes me as odd about how Joseph, Alma's husband, was acting. That is... Yes, he confessed to Alma's murder from the very beginning. If he was willing to confess, what reason would he have to hide any evidence? Let's assume for a moment that someone else is the real killer. Can we follow this hypothetical person's steps? This person would have killed both Alma and Abigail. The first person to be killed would have been... Right, Alma's corpse was found first, but Abigail had been killed before then. In other words, the killer wore a costume to kill Abigail, then killed Alma the next day, after which the costume was discarded into the fireplace. However, we haven't found the murder weapon yet. There were no traces of it in the fireplace. The killer would also have some connection to the two victims as well. We can assume that Abigail personally knew her murderer. The reason for this is... Right. She received a phone call from a payphone to call her out. The killer knew Abigail's phone number, and Abigail rushed out right after receiving the call. It's unreasonable to think that she would do that for someone she didn't know. Similarly, there's a good chance that Joseph knows the killer as well. This is because... Yes, if that wasn't so, Joseph would have no reason to defend whoever killed his wife. So, is the killer someone that the entire Parker family would be acquainted with?
Dr. Kimishima, sorry to keep you waiting. We've taken a look at the clock we recovered from the Parker house and...
Oh, hello? Naomi, can you hear me?
Alyssa? What are you doing there?
Wow, I can hear you. This guy let me in.
Little guy?
This girl said that she really had to talk to you.
All right. Alyssa, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
I need to do some work with the man you're with. Be a good girl and be quiet for a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. So, about that clock.
Yes, I heard that much. Get to it.
As you mentioned, the decoration on the clock matches the wound on the corpse's head. It probably fell off the desk and struck the victim's head. This may have happened while she was struggling with her assailant.
I see. Is it possible for that wound to have been the cause of death?
No, that's impossible. The impact wouldn't have been enough to kill someone. We've inspected the exterior of the clock, but it doesn't seem that damaged either.
I see. Then... Little guy? What's that sound?
Sorry. Looks like this clock is the kind that plays a little tune.
Hey, Naomi?
Alyssa, you said that you'd keep quiet.
I'm sorry, but that clock is broken.
Broken? Where?
Huh? Little guy, has anybody looked inside the clock?
1 second. What the? Dr. Kimishima, there's something inside.
We may have found just what we're looking for. Thank you, Alyssa. I want to know more about this weapon, little guy.
Oh yeah, no problem. It has an X-shaped cross-section, and it's 25 centimeters long. It's thinner at the tip, and it's shaped more like a steak than a knife. This isn't a commercially available weapon. This is just a piece of steel with sharpened edges.
Huh. So the killer made it?
It seems that way. It's a poor cutting implement, but it could certainly be used for stabbing.
I see. This could be the weapon then. The shape on the end of the weapon's hilt appears to match the bruise on Alma's hand. This bruise could be from Alma pushing her hand against the hilt of the weapon. If that's the case, then the person who used this weapon would have to be... Yes. If the weapon is used by thrusting forward while applying pressure with the palm, then the only way Alma could get this bruise is if she was the one wielding the weapon. But what does this mean? Yes, if we put these together, it should be easier to identify the weapon. The victims, Alma and Abigail. They both died from being stabbed in the chest by a weapon with the same shape. Their wounds matched the shape of the weapon found inside the clock. The two of them were killed with the same weapon, this handmade stake. Abigail was killed by the stab wound in her chest. The shape of her stab wound perfectly matches the shape of the weapon found in the clock. The bruise on Alma's palm indicates that she had been using the weapon. If Abigail was murdered by Alma, it would make sense for Abigail to respond to a phone call from her mother. There's also Abigail's final words to consider. did she say that? That's right. The killer was wearing a mask and covered in fur at the time, even as Abigail lay dying. She had no idea that her killer was her own mother. That's why she called out, to warn her mother away. From the phone call, she would have assumed that her mother, Alma, was somewhere nearby. But if Alma is the murderer, how did she end up killed by the weapon that she had been using?
Dr. Kimishima, the results of our analysis have come in.
Good. Which analysis was this?
The wine glass. Something else was detected in the residue.
Well, what is it?
We've detected traces of benzodiazepine in the wine.
Benzodiazepine? Isn't that used in sleeping pills and anti-anxiety medication?
That's right. It seems to have been mixed in with the wine.
Little guy, was there any benzodiazepine found in Alma's body?
No, why? The results of the drug test came up with a negative on that.
That's all right. I just wanted to make sure that she wasn't the one taking it.
Okay.
If we believe that Alma is the one that killed Abigail, then Alma put the sleeping medication into the wine. The one who drank it was... Yes, her husband Joseph.
What do you mean? Are you saying?
That's right. Alma tried to kill Joseph as well.
But, Dr. Kimishima, isn't that just...
The weapon left a bruise on her palm. That is proof that she used the weapon.
But she was killed by that same weapon.
That's true. Let's stay calm and think this through. We have evidence that there was a struggle between Joseph and Alma, don't we? That is... Indeed, the bloodstains are quite likely from when Joseph was injured and grabbed Alma's wrist during the struggle.
Then, did Joseph kill Alma during that fight?
I'm just saying that this is one conjecture we could make.
But there's no motive. The family reportedly got along well.
Little guy, where is Mr. Parker right now?
Huh? He's still being detained.
Good. Tell him something. Tell him we found the weapon Mrs. Parker was using inside the clock.
All right, I'll do that. Where are you going, Dr. Kimishima?
I'm going back to the murder scene. I want to find Alma's motive.
Oh, Dr. Kimishima, can I bother you for a moment?
What's the matter?
HQ contacted me just a moment ago. It seems Joseph Parker has a message for you.
The victim's husband? But why?
I don't know. I'll send the recording over to you right now.
This message is for whoever is investigating my case. I don't know who you are, but I'm impressed by your skills. Go to my house and check above the fireplace. My wife's diary should be behind the stones. You must already know that I can't stand, so that's the only thing I couldn't get rid of. If you read it, you might find out what my wife was truly feeling. Please, make use of that information.
That's it. Did you get all that, Dr. Kimishima?
I heard every word. I'll have to check above the fireplace. Above the fireplace, behind the stones. This must be it. Alma's diary is in here? Here it is. I should take it back to the office and go through it.
Oh, Dr. Kimishima, can you spare a moment?
I do if it's about the case.
Well, of course it is. Alma Parker's autopsy is about to begin.
Good. I hope they find something.
Yes, and regarding the results from the auto-imaging scan, a tumor has been found in Alma Parker's prefrontal lobe.
A tumor?
Yes, it's about 5 centimeters in diameter, and it seems to have been causing CVD.
Cerebral vascular disorder. If that's so, then...
Yes, well, even if she hadn't been killed, she didn't have much time left.
That's not the point. Tumors in the prefrontal lobe cause visual and auditory hallucinations. There's the chance that this may explain her strange behavior.
Wait, so you think this is related to the case?
I found Alma's diary above the Parker's fireplace.
What? Then Joseph was...
He was telling the truth. Reading this may tell us more.
I write this diary giving thanks to the mountains and to the flowing waters. My headaches continue today. That bruise seems to have gotten bigger, too. Should I see a doctor?
A bruise. What is she referring to? That's right. She was still alive when she got that bruise on her hand.
I write this diary giving thanks to the mountains and to the flowing waters. A miracle happened today. I can barely believe it. I heard God's voice, beautiful and pure. The bruise on my hand is a sigil passed on to me by God Himself.
I see. Well, I'm no theologian, but I doubt this was a revelation from God. What happened to her was caused by... Right. Her experience was likely caused by the tumor in her prefrontal lobe. She interpreted the whispers of her disease as the voice of the Creator.
I write this diary giving thanks to the mountains and to the flowing waters. Today I heard a shocking premonition. We were walking the path against God's divine will. My pain was inflicted on me as a punishment and a warning to me and my family. I cannot let this be. I must save my family. I write this diary giving thanks to the mountains and to the flowing waters. The preparations have been made. I will become the beast of the Lord and lead my loving family. I will sever them from this world and engrave the sigil upon their bodies too. Abby, my little girl, I willingly become the beast so I can save you.
Beast of the Lord. That explains the fur.
I write this diary giving thanks to the mountains and to the flowing waters. I learned a terrible truth today. My little Abby never reached his side. It's my fault. I severed her connection before engraving the sigil. Ah, my loving daughter, please forgive your mother for being so foolish. Joseph will be saved. I will engrave his sigil and lead his soul. I'll make sure it won't hurt. Joseph, let us be reunited in his world.
The diary ends here. Alma died after writing this. The sigil that she says she engraved onto her daughter is... That's right. Alma thought the black bruise on her hand appeared as a holy sign. That's why she thought she was saving her daughter's soul using the same pattern. She also planned to do the same to her husband. When she said she'd make sure it won't hurt, she meant... Indeed. This diary answers a number of the questions we've had regarding this case. Until this point, I had thought that Alma and Abigail had been killed by the same person. But now it's clear who killed Abigail. And yet, there are several things found at the crime scene that could not have been Alma's doing. I need to review the information we have to determine if these murders were committed by the same person.